Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Horse Geeks podcast, where we look at horses and riding from the inside out. I'm Kirsten Nelsen, professional horse trainer, and with me is basically my co-host, Deb Romero, certified Alexander Technique instructor. And so today's topic you sort of brought up. I'll let you share the
I did.
story, but
Okay.
I think we'll call it choosing the right saddle or choosing a saddle.
Okay.
Like, what do we need to look at? How do we find the perfect saddle? How much does the saddle affect the horse? How much does the saddle affect the rider? So why don't you share
Well, that's a good point.
why this even came up today?
Why this came up today. Okay. So I got a phone call when I was working at the office that we have a saddle fitter that works with us. And the saddle fitter went out, fitted a saddle for this horse. And we received a phone call back saying the groom rider can't use that saddle. And
And
I just found that very interesting
did they
because
say
you and
why?
I, no,
They
they
just said
just said it doesn't work for them.
it just doesn't work for that
Doesn't work
rider.
for him. Doesn't work for that rider. So I just mulled that over because you and I get on other horses with whatever saddle the horse has on it and adapt
Yes.
to whatever is whatever they give to us. So I found this might be a fascinating topic to find out, what is that all about? And to me, it's like trying on a new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Do I have to adapt because maybe my I have some really bad habits around my old pair of shoes that I have worn them, like I think we looked at your shoes once, the wearing on the outside of the heels,
Yep.
and we get in that comfort zone and maybe that's not good for us.
Right.
And if our body is organized properly, the saddle doesn't matter in my book.
No, and I have
If
to
it to me if,
say, I've seen a shift in the saddle fitting industry, like for professional saddle fitters. It's not all
right,
of them, but there's a larger percentage of saddle fitters now that are more concerned with finding a saddle fit that allows the comfort of the horse versus the comfort of the rider, because we have two different bodies
right,
that are interacting with the same piece of
right,
equipment. And so the saddle fitter who works with your group is one of those that really focuses on what's going to be comfortable for the horse. And they're fitting the saddle primarily to the
exactly.
horse, which is, I think, critical if a horse has multiple riders. Then
Good
if you
point.
just have one rider for that horse, then you can seek a saddle that's good for the horse and the preference of the rider. That's what we can do when we're riding our own horse or finding a saddle for the horse we ride. But it's not a lesson horse. It's not a horse that multiple people are going to ride. So, like my
Right.
response in talking to that barn would be, how many different people are going to ride this horse? Because if it's not a saddle that
Good
works for the
point.
groom, it's a saddle that works for the horse. And so you kind of have to make a decision. Either the groom learns to adjust how he's riding, or they give the groom the saddle the groom wants, but is that causing back issues or movement issues for the horse? And
That was
so,
all running through my head.
yeah. And so for me, the primary point of saddle fitting, because what a saddle does versus bareback is the tree of the saddle is meant to disperse the rider's body weight over a greater surface area. So that means there's less pounds per square inch of concentrated pressure on the horse's back. So whether we're talking Western or English, racing or jumping, dressage, trail riding, endurance saddle, it doesn't matter. All saddles have a tree for that purpose. So the front part of the tree at the front end of the saddle seat is called the pommel and or the points underneath the construction,
The points
the points.
of the
Hmm.
bars. Yeah.
Yeah, so the points are sort of the lateral stability of the saddle, right? The
Right.
left to right. And then off the points, you can think of the tree of a saddle sort of like a tree, T shaped. So the points go left to right, and then the bars go front to back. And the bars, what we've learned with saddle fitting, that's now really popular. I'm seeing it in all the new saddle designs, is that the horse's spine, the bones of the spine, and the tendons and ligaments either side of the spine require a channel with zero pressure down the middle of the saddle of at least 3 inches. Like that's
Interesting.
just bone and tendon and ligament, and you don't get to the back muscles, the muscle pads, uh, anything closer than like a 3 inch channel across the bones of the spine, inch and a half either side. So that I've seen as a design change in the more modern saddles compared to
Interesting.
saddles from 20 years ago that had like a little 1 inch channel, right?
Right.
And
I used to call them the thoroughbred saddles
yeah, yeah. And
back in the day.
at one time, saddle fitters, like scientists were saying, because the thoracolumbar portion of the horse's spine has such a limited range of motion. Like even from full extension to full flexion is only about 2.25 inches of full range of motion.
Right.
So the back doesn't go up and down more than a couple inches, and the spine doesn't rotate left or right, or even bend in that area left to right more than we're talking inches or measuring it in millimeters. So the thoracolumbar part of the spine, which is going to include the rib cage, the low back, right where the saddle goes, doesn't move. That's why we ride horses, is
With
because,
saddles.
well, and the saddle is more important for dispersing our body weight in a
Right.
more comfortable way. But the reason we ride horses as opposed to large cats or cows or llamas or something like that is because the back of the horse inherently doesn't have a lot of movement. So it makes
Right.
it easy for a human to ride a horse,
Right.
right? And so when we put saddles on, the saddle has to allow a minimal range of motion. It can't lock the back into zero movement through the spine or put pressure on the tendon and ligament system. And then the way we fit saddles is usually across the points, the front part of the saddle. So it's that distance over the withers, kind of on either side of the back of the shoulders, the front part of the rib cage. That's where the horse has the width that we need to fit. So when we talk about
Right.
saddle sizes, medium wide, wide, quarter horse bars, A fork trees, whatever, all that is talking about the width across the front of the saddle. And then the
Okay.
back of the saddle, the bars can be all different kinds of shapes, but basically the bars are just meant to lay on the back muscle to disperse the rider's body weight over more surface area. And they just ideally should not extend to the last of the thoracic spine. So, but
Wow.
behind the last rib.
Right.
So the horses that are the hardest to find saddles for are wide horses
Hmm.
with short backs. And by short back, it means there's not a lot of space or distance between the withers and the last rib.
Right.
Because if the saddle extends beyond the last rib, and sometimes we have to watch the back of the saddle, behind the bars, the padding at the back of the saddle, or how far the saddle extends behind the seat or the skirt on Western trees.
Right.
All of that, if that's extending past the last rib, you're putting pressure on the lumbar, which is not, it's just like our lumbar. It's
Right.
only
There's nothing
supported.
there.
Right,
There's no support there. That is our most vulnerable space.
right,
Yeah.
right. So if a horse has multiple riders, and it's interesting when I spent time in England, every horse is fitted by the saddle fitter, and that's the horse's saddle. And
Yes.
and
Instead of,
so
right. Okay. Yep.
yeah.
Makes,
And the first saddle I bought, I went to the tack store and sat in a saddle for me in the
so did
US
I.
and
So did
never
I.
nobody mentioned if it would fit my
Interesting.
horse or not. I knew nothing about saddle fitting. So as a 16-year-old, I just went and picked out a saddle that I liked.
Right.
And that's a little more the Western tradition, like in the US, where we had, very few cowboys and lots of wild horses. There's certain designs of Western saddles that will fit most horses. So a really well designed Western saddle you can put on multiple horses and it will be comfortable. English saddles are a little bit tighter fitting, and so it's more specific to the horse. So in England, they basically fit the saddle to the horse. They check it once a year, once every 2 years as the horse is changing or it needs reflocking. But anybody who rides that horse, you ride in that horse's saddle.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in the
I
US,
just
we
found it
just,
interesting.
yeah. So in the US, we think, no, the rider picks out the saddle. And that's to me why,
Hmm.
we have a lot of issues, right?
Right.
Right? So when we pick out a saddle that fits the horse, then if the horse has a limited number of riders or we're the only rider,
Mhm.
then we also want to find a saddle that works for us. And some people like a lot
Right.
of saddle. It makes them feel safe and
That's true.
secure to have a deep seat, a high cantle, a high pommel, a horn, all of that.
Right.
Part of it is what we feel safe in. And then the second part is what we feel stable and comfortable in. So, but if we're not inherently balanced, is just
That's where
where
I was going
yeah,
to go there.
yeah. So you and I, and when I work, we both work with riders
Mhm.
ignoring the saddle. I essentially
I
ignore the
think you're
saddle.
right. I think that's why this came up in my head. Like, why is this an issue?
It hadn't occurred to you that
It
it
didn't
would be
even
kind,
occur to
yeah,
me that about the saddle being comfortable or whatever for the rider.
yeah,
Because I think you're right. It's the rider balance that is in jeopardy if when you get on a saddle, your central nervous system goes, oh, no, 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 no.
right. So a lot of people that don't feel inherently balanced or confident, or they
Hmm.
like the body will send the brain signals.
Exactly.
Even if we're not aware of it, our body is feeding information to our brain, and then we generalize it as I like it, I don't like it,
You're
I feel
right.
safe, I don't feel safe, this is comfortable, uncomfortable. But it's really the body sending up these signals that
Exactly.
it's easy for you to get stable and comfortable, or it's not.
Right.
And so riders that aren't balanced, like if people tend to ride ahead of the vertical, right? Or if
Right.
people tend to ride behind the vertical rather than finding their independent relationship with gravity. That's where our balance is. It has nothing to do with the saddle. It has nothing to do with the horse. It's
Yeah,
our relationship
with
uh,
gravity.
with gravity, which is the
Hmm.
footing, the ground under the horse. That's our point of reference for balance. So there's saddles you and I ride in whatever, right?
Whatever is on the horses, that's what we use.
Yeah.
And there
And
is that moment when I get on, like I said, like trying on a new pair of shoes, or I go, huh, okay, well, this is a little wider, or, this seat's a little bit bumping me in the back. I mean, but I just adapt and rearrange around that.
yeah, and the saddles I personally dislike riding in the most are the saddles that are trying to put the rider. in a position.
I agree.
I
Those are the
just,
hardest to adapt in because there's no place to go.
yeah, you literally feel like you're fighting the saddle in
Yes.
order to balance and rebalance. And it's like there's so many dynamic, unpredictable things happening during motion
Hmm.
that trying to have a saddle that puts you in a position, it makes me feel unsafe. Not only is
Well, that's a good point.
it's just kind of uncomfortable to fight the saddle to keep my balance, but it also makes me feel very restricted.
I think that because of my training, because posture is not a position.
It's an adaptation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if I had, like you said, if our bodies feel that restriction, that's a red flag to us, but for some other people, that might make them totally happy.
Right, which totally ties back to our last podcast about perception.
Oh, that's a
So
good point.
a lot of people's perception of being safe in the saddle is have more saddle,
Have more
right?
stuff,
So that can mean bigger thigh blocks. That can mean a Western saddle instead of an English saddle.
right?
That can mean I need shorter stirrup lengths. That can mean I need a deeper seat, higher pommel. I need a strap to keep me in, right? All of that. It's like, and I go, "Well, that I'm exactly the opposite. Like I start all young horses or restart horses that have been unsafe to ride. All of my initial riding is bareback. I go, that's where I feel the
You
safest
feel, yeah, good
because
point.
for two reasons, I can feel everything very clearly. There's no, I don't want to say filter, but there's no muffling.
There's no
There,
muffling.
there's no
It's in real
muffling.
time.
Yeah, so every little muscle, every little spot that gets tight, you feel it. And you can almost feel the emotions coming through the use of the muscles when you're bareback.
And sometimes that's overwhelming because you really don't, unless you ride bareback, there's a lot of information coming up behind underneath your seat.
Yeah,
A lot of information about what's going on. And I wonder sometimes if it's too fast for most people to grasp.
I think the the reason at some point, and this is kind of the purpose of my work with riders, is at some point to really work with a horse's balance, we have to shift from thinking into feeling.
I totally agree. Or
Because
seeing, take away sight and thinking
yes,
and go more into the feel of it all. Yeah.
yeah, even the hearing is slow. So if we think about
Hmm.
when we're riding, if we're like mentally putting ourselves through the process
Hmm.
and we feel the horse do something, we respond with an aid, that is way slower than horse time.
I
Like
agree.
horses
Yeah,
change faster than the human rate of thought can keep up.
I agree.
So our speed of thought is slower than what's actually happening in motion, even if you're riding at a slow walk on a horse. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean you're galloping or even trotting or cantering. It's just the changes in coordination happen faster than the human speed of thought. And so as long as we're thinking our way through the ride, or if we're depending on a saddle to keep us quote unquote balanced in the right
Mm,
position, then we're never going to feel what we need to feel. And then we're not going to have the timing to sort of
exactly.
guide.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's about the thinking in the Alexander community about there's no right or wrong, there's no place. If we get rid of those thoughts, it allows more information to come in
right.
because it is that timing and feel, even not even just riding. I mean, just as a being walking on the planet.
Yeah, and so many people that I've worked with that are relying on the saddle or relying on the reins for
Mm.
their stability during the
Oh
ride,
yeah.
they'll also make a very common comment almost universally because I sort of tap right in trying to understand how people are perceiving the motion as a rider. Like, what are you feeling? How are you perceiving the motion? And what I get back from people in that situation is, oh, I don't have any feel. I can't feel anything.
Yeah. I don't
And
feel anything from the neck down. I'm just a
well,
thinker.
and I mean, we all feel something.
Right.
Like we all feel something. And so I go, can you feel the temperature today? Is it hot or cold? Right? Can you feel the wind or can you feel the humidity? Right? Or can you feel, and so
Right.
what do you feel? And just like we talked about in the last podcast, if the saddle is sort of muffling the movement of the horse, then we believe we can't feel the movement. But I go,
Interesting.
even in a super thick seated saddle, and like my preference is a saddle that's pretty minimal because it gives the horses the benefit of my weight distribution over a greater surface area, the whole point of having a saddle,
Right.
right? And I can still feel everything or pretty close to everything that I could feel bareback. So
Right.
to me, that's my ideal saddle. That's not everybody's ideal saddle. But no matter what saddle we like, the movement of the horse has zero to do with the saddle. We feel it through the saddle. And
Right.
our balance can be achieved in any saddle, but for some saddles make it easier for us than others or harder for us than others. So I go, if it's harder, it's harder. It's maybe not your saddle, but if I'm not riding my horse, I can still find my balance in whatever saddle. And the
Yeah.
most important thing is if it's not inhibiting the horse's movement, then the saddle is
That's the
fine.
most important thing.
Yeah. Because if it's creating tight spots or it's uncomfortable or ill-fitting for the horse, there's nothing you can do to work around that.
And
That's,
I think you brought it up earlier. I think sometimes we also don't get it checked often enough.
yeah.
There could be changes that happen through development, and maybe we're just looking at the saddle up 5 year every 5 years and saying, oh, it needs to be reflocked. But maybe we need to look at that sooner than later, like you said, every year.
Or even if we flip our saddle over and look at the side that touches the horse once in a while, right? Because
Good point.
if it's a wool flocked saddle, right, and not foam panels, like foam panels I like because they don't lose their shape over time. They hold up
Okay.
very well when you have foam panels in an English saddle. But the wool flocked saddles, that compresses over time and it definitely has to be reflocked.
Right.
And if the wool has compressed asymmetrically, that's also telling you your horse is crooked. You might not realize
Good
that,
point.
right?
Yeah.
And then in Western saddles, things like the fleece or wool sort of covering over the saddle on the bottom can wear thin. If you have a good pad, great. But you might want to, check the wool covering on the bottom of a Western saddle, or you can have hardware that pushes through. Like
Yes.
with the Western saddle, it's not uncommon for a little tiny nail to like poke through,
Wow.
right? Or something that could really irritate the horse. So, running your hands over the bottom of the saddle,
Good idea.
checking, and it should be sort of soft and cushy. And then with Western saddles, somebody just asked me this because they were just going down the road of buying the most expensive, fancy Western saddle pad they could find. And I go, get a felt pad. Like felt pads to me, they're kind of a generic pad,
They are.
right? And you can
Yep.
get them with like a cutaway for the withers or a
You can.
cutaway on the
You can get
back
them different
side of the skirt.
thicknesses.
Yeah, but a nice thick felt pad is like one of my favorite pads on the planet because it wicks moisture. It's very comfortable on their
Right.
hair. It doesn't get too hot and it's nice and dense. So
Yeah.
it almost acts as a weight distributor as well as
I,
the saddle
I
because it's
agree.
so dense. Yeah, so it takes away any potential pressure points.
Yeah.
And then with the English saddles, I like the fleece pads for kind of the same reason. They don't really do the felt ones they do for English saddles are not good, and usually they're too thin. But I like a good fleece pad for the English saddles for the same reason. But again, they compress, they weigh down, they get full of hair and dirt,
Right.
and they wear
Maintenance.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a horse here that's allergic to cotton.
Or wool.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
had to invest in two separate wool pads because, and even the type of wool, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
She would break out on her
Yeah. Or
back
some
with
horses,
cotton.
there was one client whose horse ended up being allergic to wool.
Oh, wow.
And every time she would saddle up, he was just itchy, fussy, sort of like couldn't
Interesting.
get comfortable. And she kept thinking it was bug allergies. He doesn't like flies. He does have skin issues. So she
Right?
kept associating it with bug allergies. And finally, he just was like over the top one day. And sure enough, I said, some horses can have an allergy to wool or an
Yep.
allergy to cotton.
Yep.
Maybe an allergy to felt. I guess that's cotton based.
I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure
what
what
felt
felt is.
is.
But but yeah, if they get all itchy or lumpy or uncomfortable
Yep.
and you've checked your saddle fit, sometimes it can be the material of the pad horses can have an allergic reaction to. Absolutely.
And I love that idea of turning your saddle upside down and looking at the wear of it all, how it's wearing with the horse, because that's going to tell you what the imbalance is. It's just like checking your shoes
Yeah.
to see where you're walking. It's like,
Yes.
oh, where's my imbalance? And maybe even when you put your saddle on, checking, running your hands underneath by the shoulder, just
Yeah.
simple things to check to say, are there changes that I'm not aware of?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just one of those things like I'm not great myself, but when I get my saddle out, I just tend to, before I put it on the saddle rack, I'm just in the habit of sort of holding it upside down. And it just gives
Good
me a quick
idea.
glance. So if anything stands out at me, I'm more likely to catch it. But it's like fitting the horse. There are a couple of saddles, um, and saddle companies that specialize in like wide saddles that will fit hard to fit horses or fit if you're riding multiple horses, right?
Right.
There's certain tree designs that will transfer horse to horse to horse, but those saddles are few and far between. They are
Exactly.
they're hard to find. And the two companies I found as a trainer, but it wasn't like the Balance Saddle Company. Basically, all of their
Mhm.
saddles were wide, and it came with a gel foam padding system
Yeah,
to
it had
adapt
shims.
it.
I like that. I
Right.
like I like having shims, some type of shimming device to have available to me.
Yeah. If the saddle isn't unique to that horse,
Right.
hasn't been fitted to that horse. Yeah. Yeah. And then the Marcel Saddle Company, I found out it's only the one model, the Samba,
Okay.
that has a special design to the tree. So every horse I've put it on, what I check is right where my seat bones go when you place the saddle on the horse's back with no pads, right? Right where your seat bones go should be level to gravity. And so I
Good
tell
point.
people, I go, imagine you're pouring a cup of water over the deepest part of the seat. And if it's running forward towards the front of the saddle's too wide. If it's running backwards towards the back of the seat of the saddle, your saddle's too narrow, right?
Good
But
point.
if it sort of would sit there, then your saddle is level and balanced or comfortable on the horse.
Right. And I don't
So,
know if this is true, but I've also taken the saddle and put it on the horse bareback. And push on both ends to see
No,
if
that's what I mean. Oh, you
that's
always
what
want
you're
to,
talking about
yeah, you
with no
always
pads.
always want to just set it on without girthing it up, without
Right.
any pads, and just check the saddle fit
Checking
with
it.
nothing on their back. Yeah.
Right.
Because if it doesn't sit level in the middle of the saddle, or you can run your hands under the saddle and see, are
Right.
there any tight
Any.
spots? If
Mm-hmm.
you can't move your hand comfortably through it when it's not girthed, then it's only going to be tighter when it's girthed or
Right.
cinched.
Or if you feel differences on as left side to right side, really looking at, wow, is that a horse imbalance? Am I missing something?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Or some saddle fitters still do this where they will flock a saddle asymmetrically on a crooked
Mm.
horse to
I've
keep the rider level. And that's happened to me several times
yes.
where I'm like, why isn't this horse making a change by now, right? Why isn't this horse
Right.
making these changes I'm looking for in their balance? And why were they getting sore? And then sure enough, I said, just, when your saddle fitter's coming to town, just get your saddle checked. And sure enough, it was like the saddle was flocked unevenly. And so every time the horse went to change their coordination, they're running into more
They're
pressure.
they're blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if somebody's not going to change a horse's coordination or ever work on a horse's balance, and the saddle fitter will often flock the saddle asymmetrically to match the atrophy of the horse's back.
Uh,
And over time, it's going to keep making the horse worse,
worse.
right? But it
Because as we've said, horses want safety and comfort, and they're going to move away from it if it's uncomfortable.
that's the one thing we can count on with horses.
We can
They
count on
will
that.
move, they will always adjust their body away from
Right.
concentrations of force. So
Exactly.
that's why our aids work. When we give a rein aid, it's a concentration of force,
Exactly.
right? Same thing with a leg aid, same thing with our whole body balance. If our body isn't balanced in the saddle, if we're behind vertical, we're creating a concentration of pressure in the back of the seat, right?
Right.
Close to the horse's lumbar. And if we're ahead of vertical in the saddle, we're typically creating a concentration of pressure in the stirrups. But if you think about that, take the pressure in the stirrup up higher, it's going to be a
Exactly.
small area called the stirrup bar.
Exactly.
Right where the stirrups are attached, we're creating a point of pressure when all of our weight's in our feet, our heels, or if it's all in our seat. And
Right.
so it's those concentrations of pressure that get in the way of the horse being able to balance their coordination. Because just when they start to get it, if they run into a concentration of pressure, they're going to readjust around that. The same way
Exactly.
we would,
Well,
right?
it's like what happens walking to the barn when you get a rock in your
I was
shoe.
just thinking rock in the shoe. Yes,
It's like, dang
right?
it. Am
Yeah,
I
if
going
you
to
just,
limp all the way to the barn and see if it goes away? Or what am I going to do with it?
yeah, and that's such a great analogy because you can have a very, very small
It
object in your shoe.
doesn't take much.
And you end up rearranging your entire body, your pattern of walking, and then you finally like stop and empty out your shoe, get the
Yeah.
rock out, right? But that's exactly what an ill-fitting saddle will do to a
Yeah.
horse.
Or like a wrinkle in your sock. I mean, that can drive me crazy.
Or when the little like the seam on the toe of the sock goes
Oh,
under
oh,
my foot, I hate that.
yeah, you
Yeah,
hate
and
that.
it's
Okay.
like not a big object, but it's
But
just enough.
I mean, that's how sensitive horses are
Yeah,
to pressure.
yes, it's the same thing.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so like I guess my response, like what started the whole conversation, is the horse gets fitted with a good fitting saddle, and the exercise rider doesn't like it. And I'm like, too bad, so sad. Like,
That's how I feel about it. I'm like, deal with it, buddy.
figure it out.
Figure it out. But
Yeah. And I think too that sometimes when people do start taking the horse's saddle fit more seriously, it begins this like saga of saddle shopping because to find one,
oh my gosh, it's huge.
it's huge. And I
It's
see people get
huge.
stuck there for years and
Hmm.
or go through multiple saddles.
Right.
And so my philosophy is just pick one that works for you right now and don't
Right
try to get
now.
the perfect saddle. Like some
No,
of
because
these, they can
everything's
run,
going to change.
between four and $10,000
I
for a
know.
saddle. So I'm like, just get what sort of works for your horse and one that you can cope with. Because as you're working on your balance, as you're developing your horse's coordination, things are going to change. And this might not be your ultimate saddle, but does it work for you
I
right
don't
now?
know. I don't know about you in your area, but I'm very fortunate that I have a very two or three used tack stores close within a 30-minute drive. They'll actually let you take out three at a time and try them.
And
So,
there's a ton of saddles online.
oh,
Like
that's
if
true. That's true.
online shopping for a used saddle, or of all the companies, I keep sending people, if nothing else, they make the plastic fantastics, I call them, but it's like the Wintec Saddle Company, and they
Hmm.
do synthetic Western saddles and synthetic English saddles. And I go, the fact that they don't try to be too fancy
No,
is
it's like the
very
basic
basic,
model. I love it.
very standard, and they end up being a fantastic saddle as a transitional saddle, if nothing else. But they're not expensive, even brand
I
new.
love
They're the
them.
low end of the market.
Yep,
And the only
I
thing
love mine.
I wish they didn't do were the air panels. I'm not a fan of the air
Right,
panels because the air gets really hard and it can again create pressure points because
right.
it's a movable factor. So I like the foam or the wool panels, but I go, it's very basic,
It's
not
cost
fancy
effective. It
saddles,
really is.
and they tend to work very well because they're not trying to be anything other than kind of a standard saddle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
And they come in all different widths and sizes and
Hmm.
models. And so I end up referring people a lot to look
As
for
a
a wind
basic,
tech.
that's like the
Hmm.
saddle I always keep in my closet.
Yeah, because if I get a horse that's suddenly hard to fit or
Right,
doesn't have a saddle, with a little bit of like creative shimming or padding, you can get
right.
it to work on a lot of different horses.
I agree.
And some of them even have an interchangeable,
I've got
um,
the interchangeable gullet.
yeah, where you
Yeah.
can change the
Hmm.
width of the saddle
Hmm.
up or down depending on the horse. So it does give you more flexibility, because unless you're competing at a super high level, it's somebody who's competing at a high level, spending a ton of money on their saddle is definitely going to have a saddle fitter involved,
They're
right?
on it all the time. I mean,
Right.
that's a continuum for them.
And where I find most of the problems are is somebody buying a good brand name, but not working maybe with a saddle fitter or working with a saddle fitter that's not putting the horse's comfort first, but the rider's
Good,
comfort
good point.
first. And it's the medium between the super cheap and the super expensive is where I kind of find most of the issues because the saddle's
Hmm.
sort of trying to be more than it is.
It's trying to be a name brand.
Or it's trying to
Yeah.
sort of put the rider in a position, but I go, you can't do that on a generic level. That's a
True.
custom thing.
Right. It's like custom
So,
made boots.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so I don't know. I go,
I
if
outgrew
it's
my
in that,
custom made boots.
right? Exactly. And that's what horses do with saddles.
Yeah.
And sometimes the custom fitted saddles are being fitted at a point where the horse's back has issues or the coordination isn't really
I
balanced.
know.
So
Yeah.
you're fitting it to a problem. And that's where I like a standard saddle, sort of off the factory floor, built symmetrically at a certain width with, space on the
Hmm.
gullet, all the things we've talked about, and go, if I need to adapt it a little bit with some shims or pads or
Hmm.
a good padding system, that's far easier to do, allowing the flexibility for the horse to change.
For movement. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like that idea.
But I think that's the first question to consider, when a horse owner is looking, because it's a little different if you're a person who's riding multiple horses. Like, I would expect that guy's being paid as an exercise rider and a
Oh, yeah.
groom. So I go, if you're getting paid to ride a horse that doesn't belong to you, step up to the plate.
I agree.
Become a better rider. That's what you're getting paid to do,
Yep.
right? Quit whining about the saddle and just ride,
That's
right?
right.
And so, but if it's your horse and you want to find that, sort of golden harmony between I love the saddle and so does my horse, that's going to take some shopping and some help with a
Takes
saddle fitter.
hours. Hours is what I'm seeing.
Oh, see, I'm thinking months.
Oh,
Yeah.
but I'm saying
Yeah.
hours we're just trying three saddles.
Oh, right. It
And then
is
those might not work. And then you go back and get three more. And then, you know
right.
what I'm saying? It's a process.
It's a huge
And
process
I
and it
think
involves a lot of shipping, a lot of trips to the
exactly.
store, a lot of
Yes.
money up front because people won't just loan you out the saddle. Sometimes you
Right.
got to
So
buy
just
it, then you got to
persevere,
sell it.
persevere,
Yeah.
and check your saddles. Start maybe put it on your calendar every 4 months or something. Flip the saddle over, check everything.
Yeah.
Is everything okay?
Yeah. And just look at the bottom or put
And
it
look
on.
at it on the horse. Do we have space? We have more space on one side than the other, then we've got a horse imbalance.
Right. So instead of just tacking up, it's like before you put the pad on and girth it up, once in a while throw the saddle on bareback and just
Yeah,
sort of run your hands under there looking for pressure points. Look at how the saddle sits between basically the shoulder blade and the last rib. And you can even look at it while the horse is at halt to see if the horse is sort of tilting it left or right,
yeah,
or if it's wearing unevenly under the saddle, then you
right,
have a balance issue with your horse's movement.
right. All good
Absolutely.
indicators.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit of a process because bodies are
Mm.
dynamic and it's
And it
not a
changes. Allow the change.
right. So
Yeah.
if you make room for the change,
Hmm.
you're not gonna go crazy with saddles. It's like just, and the more experience you get, the more what you're looking for in a saddle might also change.
True.
Yeah. And you either like a lot of saddle or a minimal saddle.
Right.
And so there's so many different things to look at. But number one, if we don't put the horse's comfort first,
I
we're
agree.
basically swimming upstream. Like
Well,
it's just a
hmm.
fight for everything. If the horse isn't comfortable with the saddle, there's no amount of leverage or aids or obedience
Oh,
training or desensitization. Like there's just nothing you can do around a rock in your
right.
shoe
That's
other
right.
than take the rock out of your shoe.
And figure out what to do.
Right,
Exactly.
right. So I would put that as my priority over anything.
Mm.
And then if I had to cope with a saddle, I actually loaned out a saddle to a client, and it was not a saddle she would ever choose at all. And it's not an ideal saddle for her, but it really fit the horse well, and it was going to work for our initial get the horse going in better balance stage of training. And she really had to change how she was riding. So it ended up being a good thing because it broke some of her habits.
Right.
And now that she's changed some of her balance, she's no longer looking for the same saddle that she used to have a preference for.
Right.
Yeah, so she's actually found more information and she goes, that's changed now what I want in the saddle.
Good point.
Yeah, so it's good to experiment.
Yes.
Yes, I think we better wrap it up. So thanks everybody for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe. Oh, and I needed to mention because I moved, all of the podcasts now are being hosted by Substack.
Ah,
And so I think it's under Training for Optimal Balance on Substack
okay.
is my page that hosts the website if or sorry, hosts all the podcasts. So all the old
Okay.
episodes are there if people want to go find old episodes, although you can still find them on Apple and Spotify. And on Substack, if people subscribe under Kirsten Nelsen or Training for Optimal Balance on Substack, you get the latest podcast as we release it. It will be emailed
Ooh,
to you directly. So it'll
weeks ahead of
come,
time.
not really, where I think sometimes
Really?
1 week ahead,
Oh, it's only okay.
but as soon as it's published, anyways, you don't get it early, but as soon as it's published, it will just come to you as an email rather than you having to
The
go to the podcast platform and look it up. So,
nice.
yeah, so it'll come in your inbox if you want it that way, then that is available by free subscription on Substack.
Cool.
And
All right.
I don't think I mentioned that before because that
Nope,
was
I
our
don't think
big
so.
transition was to Substack.
Yay.
And I do put blog posts on Substack as well. So there's some written stuff there as well as the podcasts are there. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode. And thanks for the topic, Deb.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.